on.
Okay, is that on? This is the July 11th meeting of the Council's Planning, Economic Development, Land Use Committee. Council members present, Alfredo Ballerin, Judy Doshate, and myself, Kathy Fahey, and also President Pro Tem Richard Conti. We are here today to discuss resolutions 2652-19R, a reappointment of William Pettit to the Albany Parking Authority, resolution 2752-19R, resolution to discuss the reappointment of Beth Lacey to the Albany Parking Authority, and resolution 2852-19R, resolution to discuss the reappointment of Chris Burke to the Albany Parking Authority. Well, welcome everybody. Why don't we start with Mr. Pettit, if you'd like to come up and have a seat. Perhaps you could start by just introducing yourself, and you know this is a reappointment, and maybe you can fill us in a little bit about your service on the Parking Authority and why you wish to continue.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Oh, you're welcome. And I've been on the Parking Authority a long time. I have no idea when I started. It's more than 13 years. I think I've sat through 2 other of these, but I can't remember. So anyway, I was for many years the president of the Washington Park Neighborhood Association, and on the, on the Washington Park Conservancy, and I ran my own business in Center Square, and I raised my children on State Street my son went to Albany High. And why do I want to do this? Well, somebody has to keep an eye on the Parking Authority. I kind of think that's my job.
And how do you feel? Well, let's start. Are there questions, folks, that any of you have? Thank you.
Well, why don't you continue the dialogue?
Oh, all right. Yeah, well, I was just going to ask my own questions.
Right, yeah.
Well, I was going to ask you, what changes have you seen? And
In the Parking Authority?
yes, in parking in general here in Albany. How do you feel about the situation, and where do you think we're headed? Should be headed?
Well, the bonds are the biggest concern there, and that's our function. Basically, is to pay off and pay down the bonds. The bonds were floated to build the 3 parking garages that we have, and then the parking meters were added on just about the same time I came on to begin with, and so it was that's unchanged essentially, except for we went from the parking meters to the multi-space meters, which really helped with the revenue side of the equation. The whole time, my whole service, the Parking Authority has been a economically strong unit, and then I don't know, a couple of years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, we took on the enforcement aspect, which I think ultimately was good to get it out of the police department and under us. That helped in management, personnel management. As I see it, that helped in personnel management. We got a better level of enforcers, if there is such a thing. In the future, I believe the board the authority should continue to support the city in any way that we can for parking-related issues. Might be building a new garage or better managing the parking meters, the street parking.
Okay, thank you. Questions from other members?
What has been the most challenging or difficult decision during your tenure on the board?
Oh, refinancing of the bonds in 2003. That was a disaster.
What happened? Educate me on
Way
that.
back.
That's
That was
16 years ago.
So we had,
Different director, different everything else.
yeah, we had roughly 17, I don't remember
And
the
you've
exact
never
number.
forgotten, obviously.
Oh, never. We had some large number of bonds in the $15 million variety, and it was decided to refinance them all at a lower interest rate to lower the interest rate. So we did that, and it was the prior to the 2008 financial crisis. And those refinance bonds included some default swaps, which was all the trendy thing to do at the time. And at that time, I said at the meeting that I thought the only people who would make any money were the bankers and the lawyers, and everybody guffawed and didn't want to hear that. And ultimately, that proved to be correct, because in 2009, we essentially had to refinance again. And
Oh, were they ARMs or what, adjustable?
No, this got so complex.
Okay.
It's a whole hours of conversation. But basically, in a nutshell, this happened to all across the country, and just a tremendous number of colleges, universities, any place that refinanced their bonds in the early 2000s used default swaps. And that
What
was
is a default swap?
I don't know.
All right.
Okay.
And
I'm the chair of the finance committee, and I don't know either.
well, I don't believe that you
I
can
figure I
do.
could be educated about something.
I don't believe you can do that anymore. I think that was I don't know. There was a line in the bond, the reissue bonds, if you remember 2008, that said that the new bonds had to be insured by an insurance company, a AAA or something like that. AIG, you remember? I don't know if you remember
Yeah,
this. They
yeah.
went out of business. No other insurer was rated AAA, so all of our bonds were in default. Everybody's bonds were in default, not just the Albany Parking Authority, but just billions and trillions of dollars. And we had to refinance them, and it cost us a ton of money. I don't know how much money
I don't
it
recall
cost us.
hearing about this. Oh,
Right.
interesting.
So
Thanks for that little education.
that's what I think. All I do is sit there and keep an eye on it and say, we're not
On
doing that
bonds?
again. We're not doing that again.
Oh, okay.
Well, so we refinanced the bonds a year or two ago, and it was a straight, just like you think, bond refinancing. The interest rate went down. We're saving money, but there's no weird default swap thing on contingency on it that makes bankers and bankers and lawyers money, and ultimately, that's kind of what I think I do. Everything else is sort of business.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
No, thank you very much for being willing to serve and for your,
I do it for
you
the
know,
money.
it's, what?
There's no money. Thank you.
Thank you for, Rich,
Do
did
you have any observations on permit parking enforcement and how that is going, and any discussions at the
I
level
think
on that?
I think it's oh yeah, I think it's really helped in in the area where it is. I'd like to see it permanent. We're not there yet. I think it helps both businesses and the residents, and it makes it a lot easier for the people who live, and the older people who don't have to go out, and the people who are raising children, and businesses in the area. There is a turnover. There are more spots. It did what we thought it would do. I want to say this correctly. It encouraged people who park all day to park somewhere else, and which is good.
Absolutely.
Too bad it didn't encourage a lot of them to go for public transportation.
Oh, absolutely. So I don't know why.
Has there been discussion, I'm sorry, Rich, go ahead.
No, that was, and I know it's one more comment, but go ahead.
I was just going to say, has there been discussion about, because there are new development projects in there which we're excited about, but some residents are talking about the impact that'll have on parking.
Well,
Do you folks look at that at all?
yeah, we think about that for sure. And we've done the odd study now and then for like the warehouse district, what's the parking situation there, just so that we know what the lay of the land is. I think that's part of the success of the parking authority. So we try and keep our ear to the ground and think ahead. I can't talk to the specifics of any one area, but I'm real comfortable with the job that's being done by staff that way. It's not like, we should have thought of that. Generally speaking, we've got some clue as to what's going on or what. Up by St. Peter's, I don't know yet. You know what I mean? But I think we've got our ear to the ground.
What about St.
Well,
Peter's?
I think there's a proposal to build a giant apartment complex up there.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
right.
You know that.
And we
Oh,
have.
yeah, that.
Yeah, that. We
Yeah, I
haven't.
kind of know about that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what we know about it, and I don't know how that's going to impact parking authority business.
Up there, you do have the meters.
There are meters
Yeah,
there.
the joint meters, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else?
No, I've known Bill for a number of years and can attest to his civic involvement and commitment and all the good things he does.
Thank you, Richard.
Fabulous.
I'm glad he's continuing on.
Is there a motion to move the resolution forward with a positive?
So moved.
Oh, I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Thank you for your service.
Okay, I'd like to welcome Beth Lacy up. Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for coming.
My pleasure.
If you could tell us a little bit about your service on the Parking Authority and why you would like to continue.
Like Bill, I can't remember how long I've been, but he has been longer than I, so it's probably around 8 years at this point. I have been a citizen. We came to Albany in '92 and live up on the park, on Washington Park. I am a business owner. I have a business down here on Pearl Street. And
What one?
I have an architecture firm, and so we have about 14 people right now, and raised my children up in the house on the park, and certainly been involved in a lot of vibrant parts of the city's life. And as an architect, certainly like to look at the density of the neighborhoods, and certainly like to see that the city is flourishing. It is doing much better than it was when we came here in '92. And I think that paying for parking and parking being available is a critical part in drawing businesses and people to the city. People always lament about paying for parking, but it is part of the way things work. To bring people in and to get turnover in spots, this is what you do. And we have been very successful over the years. Even through the down economy, we figured ways to still incentivize, to lower prices, to keep people in the city. Didn't want to assist the city in keeping those businesses here. And we're still looking for ways to increase usage and opportunities. Work closely with the downtown bid and the Central Ave bid to provide the appropriate balance. Downtown bid asked for some nights off and weekends free so the parking, their patrons could come, and we have obliged. So we figured out ways to make that work. We always have to watch the bottom line, but we are willing to entertain different options to make that happen.
Okay, sounds terrific. Any questions? Freda? Judy?
Yeah, I'd like to know if you have a different answer to the question of What's been the most challenging decision or?
No, the bond thing was difficult. For me, the biggest problem with that level of work is trying to wrap my head around some very, very high-end finance, and to just keep track of it and understand it enough, because that isn't my background.
Right.
We do. I think the Parking Authority does a great job at pulling in expertise when needed. We have specific counsels that help us with specific things, just like a general practitioner might not be the best for certain aspects of law, certainly not in a very high trade like this. And so we brought in the appropriate people and really worked on it for a long time. So that was probably the most technically challenging for me, but challenging is for me more of a balance of making sure that we provide the right level of parking for people. So we're getting full now. People are in the city, and
good.
so it's keeping a balance to having the right amount of still open spots, and spreading out the regular users so that you don't go to a parking garage daily and find that it's closed, but also getting the news out. We have ways of, you could pay by plates, and being able to not have to run back and feed the meter. We're looking to expand.
If you can remember your plate number.
Yeah, you get good at it after just a few uses, so that's a hard
Pay
one.
by
But
plates.
you can do it on your cell phone now. So if your meeting runs long, you don't have to run the 2 blocks down.
I don't think I knew
Pop
that.
'em in.
Yeah.
You can do it
I
at
just
any
haven't-
of the meters,
I
even
have
the single
app
head ones.
on my
works.
phone, but I just haven't plugged in my credit card
Yeah,
information.
That's
So-
great.
Makes it very easy, and we're looking to develop another app that will allow you to see where there's
spaces?
capacity, not so much on the street, or I think it registers that, but at least in the garages.
Okay.
Start with that and then move on. And we've developed, garages are 24/7 now for access for because we're seeing more residential,
Yeah, which is great. Really true.
and they need to get the cars in and out, so.
So I'd like to actually follow up on what Mr. Pettit had said. So when you guys are talking about the potential development across from St. Peter's, what are the potential impacts on?
Across from St. Peter's, it doesn't technically impact our, us much, because there is the on-street meters, right? The multimeters. But, whenever we hear about a situation where parking is impacted or potentially impacted, we discuss it at least to see if anybody has ideas of, is that some place we should look at developing parking or trying to do something more to alleviate or accommodate. And so we don't have a solution for that one, but we did discuss it. And more, it's just to start the wheels turning and not let something, we don't have any need, we don't think about that. So like Bill said, we looked into the warehouse district. It's a very time-sensitive situation, but there may be more and more as things develop, but it's better to know beforehand.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Rich?
Yeah, kind of from a parking authority perspective, do you have any observations on permit parking enforcement and how things are working?
Enforcement is working out really well, I think. When it's been, I know that now we are able to enforce some into the evenings and even on weekends and at festivals. And we're trying to, it's a delicate balance, but they really focus on quality of life things. So as a resident that lives near those festivals, to people that park at crosswalks or in front of hydrants, they get tickets, now. And those things didn't happen before. I don't think that should damage anybody. If you're willing to park in front of them, you should expect a ticket. So helps us, I think, everybody to be on better behavior on when enforcement isn't around. I think certainly license plate readers have made enforcement a little easier for people, for everything. And I think it's more expected if you park illegally that you may get a ticket than it used to.
I certainly have some
I have
telling me that.
I've experienced it myself, even while on the board. So there's no get out of free. There's no more of that.
And I've known Beth for a number of years also. You can attest to her civic.
So I'm noticing all
Involvement.
three of these applicants.
It just happens.
It just
that
happened
way.
today.
Not everybody on the board is. There was a point when everybody on the parking authority was in my area, but
Not anymore.
You can see why people would have more of an interest in your area. How many board members are there?
there are 5.
There's 5 of us.
Uh-huh.
It's a small board. We meet monthly. We have 2-hour meetings, so we go through quite a bit. And, our communications have really improved with Matt in the leadership.
That's great.
He delivers a lot of information in that time, and we get through a lot of stuff. Get to do fun things like the murals now. So
Like what?
the murals, advocating for the
yes,
arts
yes.
in the
Are
city.
there more underway?
There's
or-
always a little more.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Alfred.
Okay.
Would you see any problems with expanding zone parking, residential parking?
Well, we would not see any problem with that, I wouldn't imagine. Depending on how much is added, we may need to add enforcement, but it wouldn't, I'm sure any expansion that would meet the criteria that you all laid forth and the state allows, we could accommodate. It's just more of the same, so I don't see any problem with it. I know in my neighborhood it has made I used to work from home, so it really did make it easier for me to park nearby, but it has made a difference.
Thank you.
Where's your business located?
We're right above the Hollow on North Pearl, right next to the Capitol Rep.
All right, okay.
So, and we are
Well,
users of the
Thank
garage.
you for being a business in Albany as well as a
Yes,
resident.
All right.
absolutely. And thank you for your service, Beth.
So,
Is there a motion?
I'll
on
make a
the table?
motion
All
to
right.
approve.
Okay. Alfredo seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you very much.
Chris?
Mr. Burke?
Thank you very much.
Hello, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Thank you for coming, Chris, and thank you for
Thank you.
your service on the Parking Authority. Again, you could talk a little bit about your service up to this point and why you'd
Certainly.
like to continue.
For those of you I haven't met, I'm Chris Burke. I run the Northeastern Association of the Blind up on Washington Avenue. I live in Center Square. I've lived just no more than a block off of Lark Street since '92.
You have a rough commute, huh?
It's tough. People don't shovel their sidewalks in the wintertime.
Oh, I know.
That's a problem.
It is.
2 kids, raised the kids there, so very entrenched in the city and downtown. Parking Authority, I remember when I was first, I'm also a Conti Democrat.
Oh, is that
I
what
want to
they're
make that clear. When I was first
Good
asked, I
pitch.
thought, boy, parking, really exciting, right? But it's very interesting because you have to track all the real estate developments that's going on. You have to track what's going on in different neighborhoods all around. There's the financing pieces that Bill tried to talk about before. There's a lot of components to it, right? You have to issue bonds and make sure that you're serving the bonds as well as promoting economic development, all the rest. So it's actually quite interesting to being on the Park Authority board. I think I've been on 6 years. They could correct me in the back if I'm wrong. I've been on 6 years. And the current administration is doing a really nice job. Information flows very well. We seem to have a nice relationship with the city, the
Did he
treasurer's
pay you
office.
guys?
What's that?
Did he pay you guys? Or-
I still can't get him to wear a tie, which is a problem. But, very transparent. Things seem to be going well. Big push is, are you making the quality of life better in the city of Albany? Are you treating all the neighborhoods equally in all the areas? Are we serving a function that is really citywide and supporting everything that's going on? I think the mural program has been great. I think adding lights and having a real emphasis on pedestrian safety and working with Palace Theater and the Downtown Bay and others is what we should be doing, driving more people
You
downtown.
guys have added lights, pedestrian lights to our sidewalks?
Part of around the garages. And in the garages.
Uh-huh.
LED lights, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Well, pedestrian safety, and you come to the palace, you're gonna park in the garage if you're afraid to get to the garage, so very important sorts of things. So it's been very interesting, and I think we've clearly had an impact on what's going on downtown. The finances are stable, we're meeting our bond obligations, the garages are in good shape. My favorite is the app. I mean, I don't know if you guys are using the parking app. People find out I'm on the parking authority board, they're like, oh my God, tell people that we love that app. So you don't have to leave a meeting, you can just renew your,
My
off you
app
go.
is there, it's just not,
It's great.
if you don't put it in the credit card information, right, you can't use it, right? If I got,
In time.
so I just gotta, I gotta
In time.
find the time for that other bookkeeping thing, you know?
But those sorts of things are, thinking about the next steps, how are we going to get better? How's enforcement not just going to be about collecting tickets, but make it better, access to parking, make it better for residents, all that sort of thing. So,
And are there
I agree.
anything in particular you're looking forward to as far as developing new?
Kathy, it's interesting. A few years ago,
Ideas.
when we had the downturn in real estate downtown, we were worried about people parking, right? When the usual down economy, everybody goes out to the office parks, up economy, they come back in the city. And we were very concerned about that a few years ago, what we're going to do about that. But being a part of this resurgence or people coming back and adding that residential component to it, it's very exciting to see where that's going to go, right? The more people come in, we have to support public transportation, right? The new express lines that CDTA put in, I think that's great. I think is it blue or purple, whatever's going to go to Cohoes, I think that's going to have a tremendous impact. How do we tie into that to make sure that there's parking available, we're supporting that, all that, and grow the residential downtown, right?
So fewer people will be driving, is the point, right, or what?
Fewer people will be
Driving.
but you still have to support their activities, whether it's, we've talked about intermodal facility, or, how are we playing a role to make sure that the more people that are coming down and seeing, a well-lit, pleasant environment, they want to be down here, what role can we play in that? Driving more people into the garages and staying later, right? Another big piece. It used to be absolutely lights out at 5 o'clock. It's a little better now getting that way. How do we support that to make sure that those businesses are doing well when it gets to be 5, 6, 7 o'clock? And there's a role for parking in all those pieces. I think it's great. So the exciting part, to answer your question, is seeing where this residential component of this growth that's coming is going to go. Right? You have to hit critical numbers before you put a grocery store in.
No.
Critical number before you go rent apartments to condos, and all those things. And it just seems to be coming along. So it's very exciting, very interesting.
Condo development is something I'd like to see.
What's that?
I'd like to see the condo development,
Oh, yeah.
because I think that once we do that, that's when we can draw retirees in who have
That's right.
money in their current houses and don't want to just go into an apartment and get nothing out of it in terms of an investment. But
That's what I'm waiting for, too. That's great.
I'm
Very-
getting there
it's
too.
exciting.
Anybody else up there have anything?
No.
Jude, are you all set?
So there's, I guess, one of my questions, so you're pushing the app, that's great. So does the app actually, and these multi-space meters, does that actually increase revenue for you guys or decrease revenue for you guys? Because then we're not doing as much, we shouldn't have to do as much enforcement, right? So fewer tickets, I'm looking at that
Right.
too.
Yeah, it's okay, I can answer.
What?
I could answer, too.
Okay, you're good. Yeah.
It is my turn.
I like
The
a
app,
board
the
member
multi-space
puts them in his place.
because you can put your credit card in, you can add more time, all that. You're getting more revenue on the parking piece. Issuing tickets actually is revenue to the city, correct?
Yes.
So, we would like to see, or I should say, would like to see, making more money on the meter situation and the apps and making it easier to park downtown and be down more frequently and spending more time than people that have been over time or parked in the wrong spot or whatever and hitting them with the ticket, making revenue that way. So it's going in that direction. And yeah, we'll make more money. I mean, I do it, right? If it's as easy as putting your credit card in and thinking about, like, oh, maybe I'll go do something else while I'm at that meeting,
Yeah.
add some more time in. So just
If you
by
didn't have to do
virtue
the
of,
running back and forth.
right, by
And
virtue of
risk-
having
Or
more
looking for a new
options.
space, whatever.
That's right. By virtue of having those options, you can make. But that's okay too, right? Because you're creating.
I 100% agree with you. There is a part of me that, as chair of the finance committee for this city, it's kind of like,
It's interesting.
our revenues are going to go down. But
But
But I want to say, for the record, that is not my priority
Right.
when it comes to parking is
And we want
making sure
city
people
revenue-
pay attention and park legally in that,
Right.
and have access to parking.
so that we have businesses surviving and
Yes.
thriving and taxing the businesses and not making it on the tickets. I mean, that's kind of that's our philosophy. And we all know what
Sounds like a fun
downtown has been
board.
like. It is kind of fun. It is kind of fun.
Especially these days when you're dealing with increases of people coming back into the
Right.
city. Yeah.
The other way around. I mean, when people are leaving, you have little recourse, right? If your revenue source is people putting in and being here, if they're going the other way, you have little recourse when you've
Yeah.
got bonds. So yeah, it's nice to be where we are right now.
Are you guys talking about any new garages? Any new facilities of any sort?
We're thinking of putting one right next to the Association of the Blind. Now, that all trends with how development is going. It's how are the garages performing? How's parking? Is it driven by need? If it's need driven, because if we're going to do it, we have to issue bonds. It's a whole big process to do it. But it's all driven by how the growth is driving and going.
But a lot of these developments, also the residential developments, when it's not a retrofit, they're being required to provide a certain amount of parking there, so it's not on you to take care of that.
I know
That's a
one
piece of it.
site that would be great for a new parking garage, right across from SUNY, that new engineering school.
Just what I was going to say.
That'd be a great.
Have there been
location.
conversations about, we talked a little bit about that in conversations with you, Albany, on parking, because that really will be an issue up and through there, once they get.
Yeah,
And the
where we're
surface
talking about?
lots.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
I know very well. I've got SUNY as a tenant in my building. It used to be in one of those buildings up there. So I get very nervous with the engineering school that they're going to build it and move them back in. We've had conversations when it was announced, but nothing serious, nothing concrete. But yeah, I mean, it's going to come a point where, how many people are going to be there? What's the faculty? What's the impact going to be? You've got the neighborhood around there. I mean,
That's such a positive for that neighborhood.
So if you
it
think
seemed
of
like you're doing a
building
nice
anywhere-
job.
So if you guys are thinking of building anywhere, just want to put my little.
Yeah. Right across the street, all that open. Yeah.
Richard, did you have anything?
Just from a parking authority perspective, any observations on current parking and how that's going enforcement from the authority's perspective or your perspective as a board member or resident?
Permit parking is the greatest thing that's happened in downtown. When you're living downtown and all the rest. Lark Street and the area around, all the areas around permit parking, it was just like, is it going to have an impact on them? Are people going to be parking on Lark Street or not because of the residential? And I haven't noticed a negative impact at all. Residential parking has been great. As a resident, enforcement, I think, we've got better technology, we've got staff that are doing a much better job reporting. I think enforcement's going up. I mean, I do hear once in a while people, I don't know, getting around the residential, but, those things are always going to happen. But I think, by and large, there's been no issues with enforcement that I've seen, but I think residential is great. I heard earlier asking about expanding it. It's an interesting idea, but, you have to come up with a reasoning for why are we going to expand it in whatever area.
Because
But
there's that
it's been
squish
great.
effect. You put a perimeter around it and the people park the next
bit further.
block over.
Judy, it's interesting because I was worried because I don't have any parking for my employees. They just park wherever they can park. And we were very concerned when permit parking was going to come in that everybody's going to push out and there's going to be nothing for my people right there. Our building is right where Sprague comes into Western and Washington. Great place for an agency of the blind. You can't cross the street. But And there has been a little bit, but nothing that isn't manageable. People are just going a little bit further out, so.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, and the lots are full. Right, there's a
You have a
lot.
lot across from you. not too
The
far.
Central Avenue lots you're talking about?
Well, Washington and Lexington, that one. And then there's one on Washington and a little, sort of, just to the east of us, just to the side of us.
Uh-huh,
There's one that goes to Washington and Central. And they're pretty well used.
right.
And I think that's a part of the result of pushing as well. But we haven't seen a real adverse impact. It hasn't created a parking crisis for us.
Good to hear.
Thank you very much for being willing to
And
serve.
I've known
My
Mr.
pleasure.
Burke,
What?
I've known Mr. Burke for a number of years, and I can attest to his civic involvement and commitment, and I'm glad he's continuing on the board.
I'd like to get a motion.
So he's already endorsed you. He's a Richmond County Democrat. Obviously, Matt over here, who's from Center Square, is, it's a club here.
He's still
It's a-
new, though.
it's a
He's still
club.
too new to be really considered a center.
Yeah. Goes
Well,
young-
Chris,
goes young
thank you
girls.
very much for your
Yes.
service. We really
Yes,
appreciate
thank you.
it.
So I'd like to make the motion.
Alfredo,
He was joking while you were talking that he wanted to beat you to it.
Judy, you seconded it? Thank you.
Yes,
All in
I
favor?
did. Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much, and thank you for your service as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
All right, meeting adjourned.